Jeremiah 29 verse 11 uncovered, the shocking truth no one dares to share at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, and the old grandfather clock echoed in the stillness. This wasn't just any hour, this was the witching hour, the time when shadows danced in the corners of your vision, and whispers of long-buried secrets crept into the air. In a dusty, dimly lit room, an ancient Bible lay open to Jeremiah 29 verse 11, and the air felt charged, electric, as if the very words were alive. "For I know the plans I have for you," it read, promising hope and a future, yet here, in the dark, it felt more like a curse. Jessica sat hunched over the pages, her heart racing. What was it about this verse that tugged at some deep subconscious fear? She felt the hairs on her arms prick up, as if 1,000 tiny needles were jabbed into her skin. This wasn't just scripture, it was a call to confront something terrifying that had been long forgotten. Nearby, her phone buzzed, flashing an eerie light in the cramped room, casting strange shadows that twisted and turned, almost mocking her curiosity. She could hear soft murmurs from the streets below, a chilling mix of late-night laughter and hushed secrets. Then there was the faint clicking sound, right in the room with her. Like footsteps, but in reverse. She spun around, her eyes wide, searching the dim corners. Jessica could barely breathe, it was like the walls were closing in, and the shadows whispered her name. Every corner seemed to hold a secret, waiting to pounce. But what could anyone find out about a scripture that seemed so straightforward? The chilling thought crawled up her spine. What if this was about more than just words? Each passing second felt like an eternity as her phone buzzed again, and she hesitated. Could she really peel back the layers of this verse? What if others had stumbled into dark territories, uncovering horrors hidden deep within seemingly harmless text? The thought sent chills racing through her, a mix of thrill and dread, a rush that made her heart pound against her chest. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With that distraction, she felt grounded again. But the electric air around her thickened, as she returned to the page. The truth hung heavy, locked away behind the ink and paper. She needed to know more. Yet that urge was dangerous. What secrets did this text guard? Could what she found lead to salvation, or would it drag her into darkness? What plans did the universe indeed hold for her? The green glow of her phone flickered ominously, as if urging her to make a choice: dive deeper or turn away before being engulfed by the mystery. The air shifted. A sudden chill flooded the room, and Jessica's breath caught in her throat. What if she wasn't alone? The clicking sound intensified, transforming into a rhythmic patter, like nails tapping against stone. Her heart raced as she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her. She squinted into the darkness, trying to catch a glimpse of what lurked beyond the borders of her vision. Shaking off the dread, she forced herself to focus on the Bible. What lies beneath that seemingly benign verse? The stark contrast between hope and foreboding twisted in her gut. The words flashed before her eyes, plans for welfare and not for evil. Was that truly the promise, or was it a sinister trick, leading her down a path of despair? Suddenly, a whisper cut through the silence, icy and breathy, "Jessica. Come find me." She froze, heart pounding. Was she losing her mind? Perhaps it was just her imagination playing tricks. But the voice held a familiarity that both intrigued and terrified her. Making her choice, she grabbed her phone, the light illuminating the pages as she scrolled through her notes from her research. The history of the verse had mentioned a hidden meaning that few ever dared to uncover. Jessica's fingers trembled as she pulled up several unsettling accounts tied to the verse stories of people who pursued the truth only to find themselves embroiled in chaos and despair. Her gut tightened. Only a few ever come back, one online forum warned, the chilling words echoing her thoughts. Could she be stepping into that very chaos? Ignoring the instinct screaming at her to stop, she pressed on. What was the worst that could happen? She took a deep breath, the musty smell of the old room swirling with the scent of impending danger. Just then, her phone buzzed again. A message. A single text from an unknown number: "You're closer than you think. The truth will unravel." It felt like ice water was poured down her spine. Who was sending these messages? Was someone watching her? Jessica swiped at the screen, ready to respond when out of nowhere, a loud crash echoed from outside her window, drawing her attention. Glass shattered, punctuated by harsh laughter and muffled shouting. The chaos below mirrored the turmoil raging within her. She felt paralyzed, horrified by the outside world and the foreboding secrets lurking in the pages she dared to explore. Adrenaline surged through her veins, and without thinking, she scrambled to the window. What she saw stunned her. Shadows darted in the alleyway below, their movements frantic and unnatural, as if they were trapped in a world that didn't quite align with reality. Jessica's breath hitched. This wasn't ordinary late-night rowdiness, it was something darker, more unsettling. Just then, a sudden thud came from within her room, sending her whirling back to the Bible. The pages fluttered violently, as if caught in an unseen hurricane. It opened wide to another passage. Her breath hitched again, words leaping out at her: "The plans may lead to brokenness." Could it be a warning? As the electric tension coiled around her, she realized she was at the eye of the storm. What had she unleashed, and how far would it go? The room spun, shadows creeping towards her, crawling on her skin like tiny insects. She could feel the walls press in even tighter. Jessica knew she had to act. The truth called to her with a siren's song, but was it a melody of salvation or a dirge of despair? She had to make a choice before the darkness consumed her whole. But before she could gather her thoughts, her phone buzzed one last time. A chilling notification flashed across the screen: "Your time is running out. Find me," or else. What had she unleashed, and who was this voice urging her to uncover the truth? As her chest tightened, Jessica realized that something far greater was at stake than she ever anticipated. The clock was ticking, and the shadows were closing in. What choice would she make, and could she escape the web of secrets lurking in Jeremiah 29 verse 11? The shadows danced menacingly closer, their shapes twisting and contorting like dark tendrils reaching for her. Jessica's breath was shallow, each inhale igniting a fire of panic within her. She darted her gaze back to the window. The laughter outside had intensified, punctuated by a new wave of shouts, chaotic and wild. Her heart raced as she steeled herself. She was not going to let fear consume her. Gathering her resolve, she pointed her phone beam across the room, illuminating the pages of the Bible as if they held the answers to her plight. The plans may lead to brokenness. Brokenness. The word hung in the air, thick and suffocating. What brokenness? Was it hers? Was it something from the past, or something yet to come? Before she could sink deeper into her thoughts, a loud bang echoed from behind her, fiercer than the previous crash. She whipped around, adrenaline flooding her senses. From the corner of her eye, a shadow seemed to pull itself out of the dark. It stood slightly hunched, an outline in the dim glow of her phone. For a split second, she thought she saw someone there, a figure cloaked in darkness, watching her. "Leave me alone!" she shouted, her voice cracking under the strain of her fear. But as she stood firm, the figure shifted, a whisper escaping its lips, skimming the edges of her awareness. "You're so close." Close to what? The answer pulled her like a magnet. The warmth of curiosity ignited amid her terror. Jessica took a hesitant step forward, toward the shadow. "Who are you?" The figure flared momentarily, as if ignited by her words. Help me. You are the key. Jessica recoiled. What do you mean? What do you want from me? Her voice echoed in the silence that followed, thickening the air around her. A mixture of chest-tightening anticipation and helplessness surged within her. She swiftly moved back to her notes, flipping through pages to find anything connected to the message that haunted her. The soft thumping in her chest quickened as she remembered a line she had read about betrayal and sacrifice. The connections flowed like poisoned vines through her mind. Betrayal, sacrifice, was this what the voice meant? Just then, her phone buzzed in her grip, and she jumped. Do you wish to know the truth? The words were now accompanied by a smattering of emojis, their cheer contrasting starkly with her mood. How could anyone be so casual when danger lurked just outside? Who are you? She typed back, fingers trembling. Seconds crawled by with maddening slowness. Her anxiety emerged through the screen as yet another crash rang out from the street. Time is fleeting. Look deeper. You will understand. The message sent a bolt of despair through her. Deeper? Her mind spiraled. She had explored the verse's origins, seeking clarity. Could it be the interpretation that held the answer? The shadow now took 2 steps closer, until she could almost make out a face distorted but familiar. A cold shiver crept down her spine. The implications of that recognition twisted like a knife. What if this specter was tied to her past? To something she wished to forget? Find me. It wasn't just a plea. It was a command that echoed throughout her inner turmoil. Jessica could feel the walls closing in, the urgency heightening as an unsettling realization washed over her. With each second ticking away, she was being pulled deeper into an unseen turmoil. Struggling to find her bearings, she glanced back at the Bible. What truths are hidden in those pages? Another buzz from her phone jolted her from her thoughts. The light shines brightest in the darkest hours. You must choose. Choose. The air pulsed with the weight of the moment. Did she dare to unravel the threads of fate? Could confronting the darkness make her whole again or break her entirely? The figure flickered, the promise of revelation tantalizingly close. Just then, another crash echoed from outside, sending her racing to the window once more. Yet, beyond the chaos, she could see something glimmering, something that beckoned as if the very truth she sought was lying in wait, but the figure was gone. The whispers faded. What did that mean? What consequences would her choice bring? With the shadows swirling in her mind, the clock was still ticking, and the whispers of betrayal and secrets had become a deafening roar. What lay beyond that shattered window? Could the truth finally unfold? Jessica felt the pulse of her heart quickening as she realized she had to make her decision now before the darkness swallowed her whole. The sound of chaos outside reached a fever pitch, a chorus of screams and uproar blending into a dissonant symphony that filled Jessica's ears. Clutching her phone like a weapon, she turned back toward the room, half expecting the shadow to return. Instead, silence settled around her, heavy and oppressive. A fracture of fear sliced through her. Where had the figure gone? What had its words meant? She glanced back to the window, the glimmering light drawing her gaze again. Heart racing, Jessica moved closer, pushing the curtain aside with shaking hands. The street was illuminated by flickering street lamps battling the tide of darkness. What she saw sent a chill down her spine. A group of people, wild-eyed, thrashing about in a frenzy, their emotions raw and unhinged. One of them pointed at her window, and Jessica felt her blood run cold. Look! One of them shouted, their voice rising in pitch with panic. The key is inside. Key. The word echoed in her head, melding with those words from the figure. Was she truly the key? It felt absurd and terrifying. With unwavering intensity, she brushed the curtain aside fully and looked down. The crowd had caught sight of her, their expressions a mix of desperation and terror. Help us! Another voice whispered through the night air, a haunting echo of the plea she had just heard. You're the only one who can. The connection between her and the chaos outside ignited her impulse to help, but doubt clawed at her. If she ventured outside, what could that mean for her? The fear of the unknown was gnawing at her, threatening to pull her into an abyss. Do it. The voice came again, this time louder, more insistent. You must find your truth. With a final glance at the now empty corner of the room where the shadow had been, Jessica knew she couldn't stand idle any longer. The glimmer in her heart felt stronger, urging her to take action. She needed answers about the figure, about her past, about what it meant to choose between light and darkness. She threaded her way through the chaos of her apartment, gripping the Bible tightly. The pages seemed to hum now, vibrating with unresolved questions. As she opened the front door, a wave of sound crashed over her, cries for help, screams puncturing the air, bodies colliding and writhing. Stay back! She shouted, feeling a flicker of bravery. But this only spurred them on. They lurched closer, eyes gleaming with wild hope. You're the light! Someone cried. Jessica hesitated, her heart thudding in her chest. The shadows felt tangible now, entwined with the crowd's desperation. It was almost as if she could sense their collective fear merging into something darker around her. A knot of sorrow twisted in her gut as she scanned the faces' disjointed expressions of hope and madness. She felt herself being pulled, a gravitational force tethering her to their cries. Just then, her phone buzzed again, a new message lighting up her screen, brighter than all the darkness around her. Your choice has begun. What choice? No! She yelled into the crowd, I can't be the one. You don't understand. But it felt like clenching its sorrow, each word only deepening her connection to the chaos, and then, as if on cue, the laughter outside returned, echoing through the night like a sinister wind. It contrasted so violently with the screams around her, yet there she stood, caught in the crossfire, a pawn in a game she didn't even know she was playing. With that thought, the shadows began to twist again, this time wrapping themselves around her heart. Unnoticed, she took a step back, retreating toward her sanctuary. It felt suffocating, the stillness against the chaos outside. Then the ground beneath her shifted. A crack formed, dark and yawning. Jessica! A voice screamed from the crowd, but she couldn't tear her gaze away from the deepening chasm. What did it want from her? In that moment, she knew that the true battle was just beginning. The question loomed over her, heavier than before: what was she willing to sacrifice to uncover the truth? Suddenly, a figure emerged from the depths of the crowd, shrouded in shadow, a familiar face among the chaos. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. Help me, it pleaded, reaching for her. But as she awkwardly stepped closer, everything around her began to spiral. What was she diving into? And at what cost? Could she pull anyone back from the brink? As the chasm widened, so too did her choices, the weight of them settling like bricks on her chest. Time itself danced perilously on the edge of collapse. With her heart pounding a wild rhythm, she stepped towards the unknown, unearthing the path of choices she never anticipated. Would she find the strength to face the darkness that awaited her? Or was she already lost? A heartbeat echoed loud in her ears as she stood at the threshold, facing the chaos that threatened to wash over her like a tsunami. The pleas from the crowd surged, relentless. She felt their desperation wrapping around her, a physical weight, demanding her decision. The face in the darkness that called out to her blurred against the shivering shadows of the night. Jessica, I need you, the voice implored. The urgency stirred something deep within her, igniting flickers of determination alongside the doubt that clawed at her. Suddenly, she wasn't just a bystander, she was a part of this chaotic symphony. Don't step back. Come forward. The shadows whispered, indiscernible yet familiar. Jessica clenched her jaw. Was this the choice that had begun? Was light and darkness truly held within her hands? Before she could think, she stepped toward the chasm that threatened to swallow her whole. It pulsated, a living beast hungry for her essence. She reached instinctively, grasping at the shadows, feeling their coldness against her skin. Wait! What do you want? She cried, lost in the intensity of the moment. Find the truth. The voice yelled again, and she could see it more clearly now, a face emerging from the fray. It was familiar, but twisted. The figure stretched closer, fingertips brushing against the rim of her consciousness. She felt a trickle of recognition. Jeremiah? She whispered, her heart racing. Help. The face grimaced, eyes wide and teetering on the edge of madness. It was Jeremiah, her childhood friend, his voice strained and fraying as the chaos pressed on. Her breath hitched. Why are you here? But she already knew the answer. Something was terribly wrong, unraveling before her like an old, worn tapestry losing its threads. Because you're the key. He screamed, fear mingling with resolve. We're all trapped. You have to choose. As his words washed over her, Jessica felt the ground behind her tremble. The widening chasm whispered of secrets and horrors yet to be uncovered, a portal to the truths she had long buried. A wave of realization hit her. This wasn't just about her friends trapped in the chaos. This was her fight too. Their intertwined destinies wound around her like vines. Think, Jessica. She told herself, heart racing as the choice loomed larger than life. The laughter that had previously felt sinister now seemed to tease her, wrapping her in ridicule, daring her to step forward. I can't. The panic clawed at her throat. I can't be the savior. But the shadows twisted around her legs, anchoring her, rooting her to the spot. You are the only one who can handle the truth. They insisted. You are the light. Frozen in that moment, she felt the chasm calling to her in a dark lullaby, a promise of understanding and danger. The figure of Jeremiah became more desperate, his hands outstretched in a plea as the crowd surged behind him, faces taut with fear and desperation. With one great inhale, Jessica tore her gaze away from Jeremiah and looked past the shadowy figures, into the heart of chaos. What awaited her there? Time seemed to shatter around her like broken glass. She glanced back at Jeremiah, stones of emotion clawing at her heart. I will try, I will try. The moment she whispered those words, the ground roared beneath her and the space between them fractured open. Women wailed, men shouted, an echoing chorus of terror swallowed whole any semblance of peace. Just when she thought she'd drown in the tumult, the crack widened further, pulling at her essence. She clasped her hands around her phone tightly, the screen flickering erratically as if it shared in her turmoil. Jessica, please. Jeremiah cried again, but the void was roaring now, drowning out all reason. Fear intertwined with rage, and she felt the tension coiling tighter and tighter. And then, with a yell that pierced through the madness, she shoved her phone in his direction. Find the truth. As it flew from her fingers and into the darkness, a wild spark ignited as the screen cracked, lighting the night like a supernatural flare. Suddenly, a rush of wind stirred the air, pulling at the shadows, dispersing some of the chaos. The ground trembled further, and the laughter that haunted her turned into something darker, a growl of warning, a shifting threat as the laughter turned to howls. The choice she made resonated, sending shockwaves through the masses. She needed to act fast. The answers were waiting, but they were hidden in the darkness. She could either save Jeremiah and the others or be dragged down herself. With a fierce resolve, she took a step toward the abyss. This wasn't just her battle, it was theirs, too. But would her choice lead to salvation or destruction? Just as her foot hovered over the edge, a new shadow surged forth, blocking her path with a harrowing scream that turned her blood cold. Jessica. No. Who was it? What were they warning her against? As she peered into the dark void, the chilling truth loomed closer than she ever expected. Was there any way back? Would she find the truth or only lose herself in the darkness? The scream cut through the chaos like a knife, freezing Jessica mid-step. Her heart raced, blood pounding in her ears as she turned to face the source of that voice. It was familiar, a sound that echoed deep within her, a siren call of warning that sent chills down her spine. Emily? Jessica's voice trembled, confusion flooding her senses. Her sister stood behind her, eyes wide and frantic. The warmth that once filled their bond now felt like ice. "Why are you here? Don't go closer," Emily shouted, desperation lacing her words. The shadows around them writhed, twisting malevolently as if responding to her plea. "You don't know what you're dealing with." The sight of her sister pulled Jessica from the brink. For a fleeting moment, the chaos faded into the background, and all she could focus on was Emily's terrified expression. Memories flashed in her mind, playful days spent together, laughter unraveling their worries. But this was different. They were caught in a nightmare. "I have to do something, Emily. I can't just leave them," Jessica retorted, her resolve hardening against the tide of uncertainty. "The darkness will consume you. It's a trap." Emily's eyes darted to the swirling abyss, her fear palpable. "You can't trust what you see. It's not just shadows, it's a lie." Jessica shook her head, the conflicted pull of duty and fear making her dizzy. The abyss pulsed before her like a living entity, offering both answers and madness. But Jeremiah's anguished face flickered in her mind, a person she couldn't abandon. "But Jeremiah is in there. I can't just turn away." "Listen. You don't know the truth," Emily cried, panic surging as she took a daring step forward. "They're testing you. They want you to throw yourself away." The crowd surged, a frantic wave of terrified faces behind her, the air thick with desperation. Each face mirrored her own internal struggle, a mix of hope and fear. "What truth, Emily?" Jessica asked, her voice barely a whisper against the stark chaos. "What do you know?" Emily steeled herself, urgency etching deeper lines into her brow. "Jeremiah isn't the only one trapped. You are too. This whole mess, it's a deception. To save them, you need to uncover what lies beneath." "What do you mean?" Jessica's heart began to race again. Dark clouds of doubt clouded her vision. Every instinct told her the only path was forward, yet a new fear whispered in her ear, wrapping its fingers around her pulse. Before Emily could respond, the terrifying howl from the chasm intensified, echoing menacingly, shaking the ground beneath her feet. The shadows ripped apart momentarily, revealing glimpses of the chaos inside, the screams, the darkness, and, above all, the shimmering truth that she feared to confront. "Step back," Emily shouted, her voice rising above the horror. "You're in control, Jess. Don't let them pull you in. Then show me." Jessica's words came out sharper than she intended, a raw command driven by desperation, everything stilled for a heartbeat. The roar of the crowd dimmed, as if the world took a breath, waiting for her choice. Emily's eyes softened. "You can't look at this from the outside. You need to dive into the darkness, but first promise me you'll hold on to the love. That's the only way to survive it." "Promise," Jessica echoed, though the word felt hollow against the chaos blooming around her. With that, she turned back to the black maw, inhaling deeply as her heart thundered beneath her ribs. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was a looming battle of light and dark, of knowing and unknowing. What must she confront to find the truth? As she stepped forward, the shadows recoiled, as if sensing her resolve. "Find the truth," she whispered, clutching the memory of her sister's love instead of fear, but just as she lunged toward the abyss, a deafening crack split the air, a surge of light from within the depths illuminated her path, blinding her momentarily. "Jessica!" Emily screamed, but the brilliance swallowed her voice whole. In that flash of light, images raced by, a timeline of choices, memories, pain, and hope. The truth was teetering on the edge, ready to reveal itself, but at what cost? Was she ready for the revelations that lay ahead, or would the truth slip through her fingers like grains of sand, proving to be more perilous than she could ever imagine? And just like that, Jessica felt her feet slipping toward the chasm, pulled by unseen forces as time twisted around her. The only question left was, Would she break free or become part of the darkness forever? Jessica felt a shudder deep within her bones as the light enveloped her. It wasn't just bright, it was alive, crackling like electricity, sparking memories as it swiftly raced through her mind. Each flash brought forth snippets of her life, her laughter, her childhood, her best moments, and entwined them with the darker memories she had buried. A painful montage that twisted her heart into knots. As the blinding radiance faded, she found herself standing on the precipice of the abyss, no longer surrounded by the crowd. The air was thick and still, engulfed in an ominous silence that made every hair on her body stand straight. Shadows danced in the distance, whispering. Jessica, a voice called softly, pulling her attention. It was familiar, like a gentle touch against her skin. Jeremiah? She stepped forward, optimism battling with dread. Was it really him? Or merely an illusion? Help me. His voice cracked, almost a plea, echoing from somewhere deep within the darkness. The word sent a shiver down her spine, igniting a fire of determination inside her. Where are you? She strained to see him through the swirling darkness, but all she found was the oppressive blackness swirling like a storm. Here. He shouted, the pain in his voice echoing her own fears. Trust me. You need to confront what's in there. I'm coming. She didn't hesitate. With each step she took toward the abyss, shadows swirled fiercely as if aware of her intent. They clawed at her, wisps curling around her legs and threatening to pull her back. Emily's warning echoed in her mind. You need to dive into the darkness. She shook her head, trying to dispel the doubt creeping into her heart. But she couldn't ignore the fear that wrapped around her, squeezing at her chest. What if it takes me too? The moment she hesitated, the ground beneath her trembled violently. Then, an image of Emily, fragile and frightened, flashed in her mind. Stay strong, Jess. Emily's voice broke through once more. You aren't alone. Taking a breath, Jessica pressed on. As she closed her eyes, she pictured Jeremiah's warm smile, holding on to the love she promised her sister. It was enough to fuel her resolve. Suddenly, tendrils of shadows shot toward her, wrapping around her wrists and ankles, pulling her deeper. Jessica's body responded instinctively. She fought against the grasping darkness with everything she had, forcing her will to push through the chaos. Jeremiah! She screamed, her voice rising over the howling wind of despair. Show yourself. And then he appeared, a ghostly figure amidst the fog. Relief flooded her, but it quickly melted into horror as she caught sight of his vacant eyes. They weren't just empty, they were filled with the same shadows that clawed at her. Jessica, help me. He gasped, his hand reaching out, trembling. You have to see the truth. What truth? She shouted angrily, her heart racing. What do you want from me? The shadows recoiled slightly, as if afraid of her anger, but Jeremiah's sorrow drew her closer. This place, it's a reflection of us. Our past, the fears we hide. You must face them. Only then can you set us free. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Each syllable twisted the knife deeper. The horrors of the past surged like a tsunami, threatening to drown her. Memories she'd long forgotten, pain she had buried flooded back, every misstep, every loss. The guilt was suffocating. No. Jessica gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks as she battled through the flood of memories. I can't. I want tea. In that moment, the shadows surged forward, roaring with rage, the dark void pushing against her mind. She stumbled, but a flicker of light radiated from her heart, swaying her balance and filling her with courage. You can't have me. She screamed. As the shadows lunged, she surged forward, embracing not just her fear but the light of all the love she carried for her sister and Jeremiah. Together. She cried, reaching through the darkness toward Jeremiah's outstretched hand, but right as their fingers were about to touch, the shadows erupted into a blinding storm. cacophony of screams echoing through the void. Giant jaws of darkness tore through the space between them, threatening to sever their connection. Jessica. Jeremiah's voice broke through the roar, almost inaudible. Remember what? She cried out, the abyss swallowing her whole. That was when the veil lifted, a soft whisper carried on the howling wind. Love is the key. The shadows roiled, morphing around her, shifting into something else entirely. Jessica's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she felt the rift deepen. Was this the truth, or was she plunging into madness? And as she was swept further into the abyss, one thought gnawed at her: would she remember enough to save them? Could love truly conquer the darkness she faced? The void throbbed ominously at the edge of her consciousness, and she felt the weight of the unknown lurking right before her, ready to snap and take her down irrevocably. As the shadows swirled around Jessica, she could feel her grip on reality slipping away. Darkness coiled tightly around her, suffocating her whispers of hope. Love is the key. The words echoed in her mind, but what did that even mean in a place like this? Suddenly, paradoxically, the shadows began to lighten, morphing into shades of gray as Jessica dug deeper within herself. She felt her heartbeat resonate with the pulse of the void. Each thump sent a ripple through the darkness. She could almost feel Jeremiah beside her, urging her on. Confront your truth. His voice rang with an urgency that shook her from her despair. Face your fears, Jessica. Fight for us. She squeezed her eyes shut, drawing in a shaky breath. Memories tumbled out like marbles dropped from a high place, each one carrying with it the weight of guilt and sorrow. The last time she'd seen Jeremiah, the haunted look in his eyes. The way she hadn't been there for him when he needed her most. No, she yelled, pushing against the relentless pull of the shadows. I want to let you take me. As if reacting to her defiance, the shadows drew back, momentarily stunned. And in that single precious moment of clarity, a shimmering light erupted from the depths of her heart like a beacon cutting through the dark, illuminating her surroundings. Faces materialized in the light, those she loved, those who had left. Jessica, they chorused, their voices harmonizing with warmth, all entwined in the glow. It was Emily, smiling through the tumult, and friends whose laughter still lingered in the corners of her mind. Remember us, they whispered, and Jessica felt a pull, a connection stronger than any fear. This love was the key. With newfound resolve, she stepped forward, a force surging through her veins. The darkness was relentless, but she could see a path, more ethereal light swirling just ahead, revealing shadows of her past that had tormented her. Faces of those she'd lost, past mistakes, heartbreaks, and regrets all floated in the air, demanding her attention. No more running, she grounded herself. I'm done being afraid. I will face you. With each word spoken, the shadows recoiled, but their whispers grew louder. Why didn't you save him? You could have stopped it. You could have prevented it. They howled in frustration, wrapping around her, trying to penetrate her defenses. She felt the pang of their accusations sink deep, settling like a boulder in her stomach. You're wrong, she pushed back, her voice fierce. I want to be haunted by what could have been any longer. The light within her flared brighter, overriding the chaos. She stepped even closer to the shadows, feeling their icy breath wash over her skin. What I did then does not define who I am now. I will choose love for Jeremiah, for Emily, for everyone I lost. And in that declaration, a crack appeared in the malevolent darkness. It splintered, and light streamed through, illuminating glimpses of joy buried beneath the pain. Laughter erupted, echoing through the void, and for every individual shadow she confronted, a reluctant smile broke through, weakening their grip. Jeremiah's image flickered in front of her, a flicker of hope shining through his lost eyes, bringing clarity with it. This power is yours, Jess. Don't forget, you are not their failure. You are our strength. Together. She yelled, the words echoing back with force. In that instant, the darkness fractured, revealing fragments of bright memory sparkling like stars. They illuminated the path ahead, and she charged forward, letting the love swell inside her like a tidal wave. As she dashed toward the shimmering dome of light that radiated hope, everything shook violently, and the shadows screamed in protest. The darkness fought back, twisting madly, but she wasn't backing down now. You can't hold me back anymore. The wall of dark shattered completely, dissolving into dust around her as she plunged through the threshold, feeling weightless and free. But just as the light enveloped her completely, a harrowing final whisper reached her. Love can also blind. The moment she crossed through, the world around her changed completely. She felt herself standing on solid ground again, but everything was eerily silent. A new landscape spread out before her, a twisted reflection of a familiar place, with shadows lurking in the corners. The air was dense and charged with an impending sense of dread. What is this? She gasped, trembling as her heart raced. And then, against her will, a chilling realization dawned: she was not done yet. The truth still lay ahead, waiting to be unearthed. As she adjusted to her new surroundings, her pulse quickened with anticipation and fear. What awaited her behind the next shadow? Would this dark place reveal yet another side of the truth she had to confront? Every heartbeat echoed with the possibility of danger, and she understood one thing for certain: the real battle was just beginning. The silence enveloped Jessica like a thick blanket, heavy and suffocating. She stood amidst a landscape that twisted reality. The once vibrant hues of her memories were drained, leaving only monochrome specters of places carved in sorrow. It felt like walking through a graveyard of her own past, familiar, yet foreign. She could hear her thoughts racing, pounding against the walls of her mind, reminding her of Jeremiah's final moments. Distraction meant danger here. This was no ordinary place, it hummed with a sinister energy. Shadows pulsated, creeping closer, melding with the eerie stillness. What else lies in wait? She whispered, her voice trembling. Suddenly, movement from the corner of her eye snapped her to attention. A shadow darted, quick and elusive. Desire to run surged within, but she stood rooted in place. A thought struck her as she hesitated: what if you run and never find him again? What if this time, you turn your back? Her heart clenched. No. She wouldn't give in. She remembered the warmth of their love and the promises they made, the unwavering belief that they'd always be there for each other. Taking a deep breath, she moved forward, determination blooming inside her chest. As she traversed this strange place, the shadows flitted around her, piercing through her bravado with whispers of despair. You shouldn't have come here. You're too late. He needed you. They taunted, voices mixing into an indistinguishable cacophony of doubt. I'm not too late. Jessica shouted, her voice gaining strength, bouncing off the walls of shadows. I will see him again. The intensity of her words seemed to momentarily still the tumult around her. But as the stillness returned, one shadow lingered, tall and imposing. It glared at her, its eyes glinting with malice. What do you seek? It hissed, a cold breeze following its voice, wrapping around her throat like a noose. You think love conquers all, but love can also destroy. Jessica swallowed hard, fear gripping her, yet she remained firm. That's not true. Love is power. The light. I've seen it. The shadow chuckled, a sound that slithered through her skin. Ah, but the light casts shadows too. You think you are alone, but look around. You're never truly free from what you've done. Nothing can hide from the truth. The ground lurched, shifting beneath her. Dread cascaded through her veins, causing her to stagger backward. Images twisted in the air, dragging her into memories she long buried, thoughts of choices she made that hurt those she loved. No! She cried, shaking her head, trying to dispel the visions clinging to her soul. I am more than my mistakes. She pressed her hands against her temples, forcing the images away. With each heartbeat, the landscape began to thrum with energy, and a radiant light flickered deep within her. Come on, Jess, she urged herself, you've broken through before. A shimmering arc of warmth spread through her, igniting the air around her. The shadow shrieked, receding at the brilliance. No! You can't escape the truth. The imposing shadow screamed, now wrapped in fury. You don't control me anymore. She retorted, striding forward as the glow around her grew stronger. The shadows dissolved beneath her will, but the path remained uncertain, dark enigmas still lurking in the corners. What truth awaited her at the other end? Was this all just a prelude to something far worse? As she pressed on, feeling the spirited pulse of light guiding her, a chilling thought crept back into her mind: the faces of those lost wouldn't disappear easily. Each step she took was a step toward something deeper, something that clawed at the edges of her heart. Jessica found herself drawn toward a tall structure looming in the distance, its outline razor-sharp against the pale sky. It seemed to pulse with rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. It called to her, promising answers, but at what cost? The shadows behind her writhed restlessly as if savoring her every move, feeding on her uncertainty. What truths were concealed inside that structure? As she drew closer, questions leapt at her from all angles, and a familiar voice rang in her ears, soft yet powerful. Do you dare enter, Jessica? Are you ready for what lies within? Her breath hitched in her throat. What if the truth is more than I can bear? It was quiet now, the air thick with anticipation. She glanced back at the shadows, their whispers fading as she approached the looming structure. The dread of the unknown gripped her once more. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open. What awaited her inside felt monumental. As darkness threatened to envelop her once again, she heard one final echo from the shadows, a sinister promise that made her hair stand on end. You will wish you never stepped inside. She stepped into the darkness, and the door slammed shut behind her, sealing her fate with a bone-chilling finality. Jessica's heart raced as the darkness swallowed her. The door's echo faded into silence, and the oppressive stillness pressed down on her like a heavy blanket. She stood in a grand chamber, illuminated by flickering torches that cast long shadows across the walls. Strange symbols adorned the stone, their meanings lost in the depths of time. Welcome, a voice echoed through the vastness, deep and resonant, sending a shiver down her spine. It felt alive, pulling at her consciousness. She turned to find a figure cloaked in shadows, its face obscured but its eyes glinting like smoldering coals. Who are you? Jessica called out, her voice steady despite the tremor within her. I am what you fear, the figure replied, the truth of your past, your choices, the darkness you ran from. As the words sunk in, the shadows around her began to twist and change, unraveling memories that pulsed with raw emotion. Images surged forth, moments of joy, loss, betrayal, and pain, swirling like a storm. Laughter shared with friends blended with screams of regret. Each memory struck her like a whip, sharp and unforgiving. Stop! She cried, clutching her head. I won't be a slave to my past. But the memories continued to cascade, echoing through the chamber like an insistent tide. She saw Jeremiah's face, twisted in agony, and felt the crushing weight of her inaction wash over her. Every choice creates a ripple, Jessica. You think you seek the truth, but can you face what you've done? The figure hissed, drawing closer. Memories of Emily flickered next. The last time she had seen her sister, laughter turning to concern, hints of unspoken words left unaddressed. You have to confront them, Emily's voice echoed, reminding her of the bond they shared, fragile yet strong. I am not afraid of the truth. Jessica shouted defiantly, struggling against the rising tide of despair. I've faced darkness before. The chamber trembled, shadows screaming in protest. You think mere words give you strength? Face the true cost of your decisions, face your fear. And with that, the shadows lunged at her, swirling around her limbs, binding her. Memories transformed into vivid specters, forcing her to confront them, one by one. Jessica, why didn't you save me? Echoed Jeremiah, his voice a haunting wail. The anguish twisted within her, squeezing her heart until it felt like it would break. You let me down. No. She gasped, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know. I couldn't find you. You knew in your heart, he pressed, pain lacing his words. You turned away. The emerging truth pierced her soul. She had turned away, driven by fear. But could she finally accept that fear and shame, facing that darkness? Summoning every ounce of strength, Jessica stood tall. I made mistakes, she cried, their weight heavy on her shoulders. But I won't let them define who I am. I refuse to be consumed by regret. The shadows recoiled at her declaration, their immense power faltering for the first time. Love is the key, she whispered to herself, drawing upon the memory of Emily's smile, their laughter echoing in her heart. She envisioned the warmth of their connection breaking through the cold walls of despair, with determination surging through her veins. Jessica pressed forward, extending her hands as the shadows writhed and hissed. You are not my master. Light erupted from her palms, piercing the darkness with a radiant glow. The shadows screamed, twisting and flailing, unable to withstand the power forged in love and truth. The memories began to shift, blurring around the edges, transforming into something beautiful. Hope. Face it. She shouted, heart pounding as waves of warmth enveloped her. I choose love, I choose light, and I will reclaim my past. The figure faltered, consciousness fragmenting like glass, and with an explosive burst, the shadows shattered, unveiling a vast expanse filled with light. She was again at the threshold, the doorway now fully open, allowing fierce radiance to flood her senses. Love can also blind, she recalled the final warning, but now it felt like a distant echo, a shadow of what she had faced and conquered. Jessica stepped into the light, its brilliance wrapping around her like a warm embrace. The world transformed before her, desolate landscapes began to flourish, flowers bloomed amidst the remnants of darkness, memories merging into one tapestry of her journey. As she walked into the radiant expanse, whispers of the past faded softly, replaced by laughter, connection, and warmth. There, in the light, she found Jeremiah, waiting, his expression transformed. It's okay, he smiled, freedom flickering in his eyes. You broke the cycle. Tears flowed freely, but this time, they were tears of relief, understanding, and reconciliation. Can we make it right? She asked, hope igniting within. We already have. Hand in hand, they stepped forward, leaving the shadows behind. As the warmth surrounded them, Jessica embraced the love she once feared, now her greatest light. And in that infinite moment, she knew the journey was far from over. The truth was a path, ever evolving, ever expanding. And standing on the edge of that, connected to Jeremiah, she felt prepared to face whatever might come next. Together, they turned towards the horizon, the dawn breaking anew, and one thought echoed sweetly in her heart: this was only the beginning. And now, dear friends, it's time for you to join this journey. You need to subscribe now to catch the next incredible stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help bring more journeys like this to life. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your support means everything. Let us spread this adventure far and wide.